In the town of Clearview, nobody ever visits the library. That's not hyperbole. While the marquee outside the building changes, inviting citizens to events, and while each resident gets a calendar of library happenings in their mailbox every month, nobody ever visits the library. That's not to say we're not a well-read town. Far from it. If anyone wants a book, they merely need to spell out the title with chalk on their driveway the night before, and the book is delivered somewhere inside their house that same evening. But it's not because of our on-demand supply of books that we don't visit the library. Everyone just knows. Though nobody visits, the library building isn't empty. There is a librarian. And throughout my younger years, I had never seen her, nor did I know her name. All I knew was the old gray Lincoln that sat in the first spot of the library parking lot and hardly ever moved. And that was just the way things were. One summer, my junior year of high school, things changed. I distinctly remember that first July. The library mailer did not come. And though I spelt out book after book in chalk on my driveway and scoured my home, the pantry, the dining room cupboards, even inside the toilet tank, the books just never came. And finally, most concerning of all, the old gray Lincoln was nowhere to be found in the library parking lot. That summer was also the year I had my first real girlfriend. Her name was Beth. She had long, straight brown hair and brown eyes that sparkled above her freckled cheeks. She was beautiful, and she was fun. But she was also careless, especially when it came to the rules. She and I would talk on the phone until late hours of the night, and I cherished all the little notes she gave me with her signature heart in the top right corner. One late July afternoon, we were walking through town when she stopped in front of the library. "Hey, Elliot," she said. "I bet the librarian kicked it. We should go check the place out." I thought she was kidding, so I played along. "Ha, yeah, I don't value my life or anything." "I'm serious," she said. "If there's no librarian, there's no danger. That building's not going to hurt us." "Okay, Beth," I said. "There's no way I'm going in there." I said that, but I was also a teenage boy and very much in love, and Beth knew that. "Come on, it's just an empty building. It's a perfect place to make out." She smirked when she saw my face. She knew she had me. And while I protested a bit more, it wasn't long before we were walking across the library parking lot to the front door. "Come on, Beth," I stammered. "Let's not..." But she swung the door open and stepped inside. She beckoned me from inside the library. "Come on, Elliot. I can't make out with myself," she shouted through the glass. I took a deep breath and walked inside. It looked mundane. Flyers for the summer reading program spangled the cinder block walls, while bright fluorescent lights bathed the rows of shelves in normalcy. Beth grabbed my hand and led me deeper into the library. "See," she said, looking around. "Nothing to worry about." She stopped halfway down one of the aisles and grabbed my face, thrusting her lips onto mine, and for a brief moment, my concern about being in the library faded under a different sort of urgency. We kissed passionately for a minute or so, until Beth pulled away from my lips and kissed her way over to my right ear. When she got there, she whispered, "There's no friend like a good book." I laughed and kissed her again, but she pulled away quicker this time, now speaking into my other ear. "Open a book, and a book opens you." Something in her voice sounded off. I tried to back up and get a look at her face, but she was holding my head in place with unnatural strength. "Beth," I shouted, Are you okay?" Beth gripped the hair on the back of my head and threw me down between two shelves of books. "Shh," she hissed. "This is a library." Now I could see her. Her face was pale, her eyes sallow. That hair that was just seconds ago vibrant and flowing hung matted down her brow. "Now," she said in an eerily pleasant voice, "what can I assist you with today?" "What?" I stammered. Are you looking for a particular book? I was torn between somehow wanting to help Beth and wanting to be anywhere else, but the latter won out, and I sprinted for the door. No running in the library, said Beth sternly. The next instant, two pinkish, fleshy tendrils burst through the floor and wrapped around my waist. I struggled to escape, but they held me effortlessly. Beth strode over to me and pushed her face up to mine. The girl I loved was still discernible beneath the gruesome transformation, but just barely. She smelled of pencil shavings. If you're not looking for anything in particular, you should enroll in our summer reading program. The tendrils carried me off to a nearby table and plopped me into a chair. I was unsure if they were holding me down anymore, or if I was just frozen in terror. Start with this one, she said, placing what only vaguely resembled a book on the table in front of me. It's been a popular choice. It was alive, blood red and pulsing with thick purple veins. I stared at the thing in disgust, and just as I found the strength to stand, Beth's hand was on my shoulders, fingernails digging into my flesh, forcing me back into my seat. Participation is required to win a free meal at Frank's Diner. I winced in pain as her grip tightened. With nothing else to do, I reached out and opened the book. It was warm, its pages wet, and the dull pulsing resonated through my hand as I held it. Slowly, I peeled back the cover, a membrane tearing as I did. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through my head. I recoiled and dropped the book, which lay open on the table. A book opens you, Beth whispered, gazing at me. The fleshy pages of the book slowly shifted, taking on color and movement. Scenes from my life flashed across the pages of the book, one slowly fading into another. Beth stood over me, watching. I couldn't tear my eyes from what was happening in front of me, but I felt her stare, her breath, and occasionally a low whimper of excitement. Time moved strangely. As everything was happening, I couldn't tell how long it was taking, but eventually I saw the scene of Beth and me. I watched us walk into the library. I watched her take my hand. I watched us kissing. There was a sound behind me. Was it a sob? I turned around and saw a pained look on Beth's face. More shockingly, it was Beth's face, not what she had become. There were still traces of the librarian, but what I saw was my girlfriend, scared, fighting. "Elliot," she whimpered. "Run!" I scrambled to my feet and sprinted for the door, looking back long enough to see Beth shifting back to her tortured state. She said something as I scrambled through the door, but I couldn't make it out. I emerged from the library into the night and trudged home. My parents shot up from the dining room table and ran over to wrap me in a hug. "Elliot," my mom shouted, "you're okay." I looked over at the clock. It was only shortly after 9. Why were they so worried? "What's wrong?" I asked. "I've not been gone that long." "Elliot," said Dad, looking at me, concern in his eyes. "It's September." I nearly fell back in shock. I told my parents what had happened, and I think their relief outweighed any desire to punish me for breaking such a simple rule. Perhaps I'd been punished enough. 2 things of note happened shortly after this. First, I got my certificate for a free meal at Frank's Diner in the mail that same week. Second, I ventured to request a book from the library, just to see what would happen. And when it arrived, it had Beth's signature heart on the top right corner of the first page.